So Tuesday was eventful. The 2026 Republican Texas Senate primary will continue in a runoff election on May 26th between incumbent GOP Senator John Cornyn and incumbent Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. And on the Democratic side, State Representative James Talarico defeated Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in a primary, avoiding a runoff. Gina Hinojosa wins the Texas gubernatorial primary and will face incumbent Texas Governor Greg Abbott in November. If Abbott were to win this November, he would be serving an unprecedented fourth term in office. So yeah, the bitch gotta go. Moving on to North Carolina, where former Governor Roy Cooper wins the Democratic Senate primary and will face the Republican nominee Michael Whatley in the race to replace retiring incumbent GOP Senator Tom Tillis. But that's not all. There was some Republican shenanigans happening Tuesday in Texas, and it was caused by a Texas Attorney General and GOP candidate for the U.S. Senate, Ken Paxton. And what he did may have impacted Jasmine Crockett in a way that most assuredly cost her votes. So without further ado, let's dive in. This is Pragmotiv News, and I'm Kameron. So let's jump into Texas. Like I said in the intro, James Talarico won the Democratic Senate primary outright, avoiding a runoff. With 92% of the vote in, Talarico got 1,211,330 votes so far, and Jasmine Crockett got 1,067,466 votes. That's 52.5% for Talarico to 46.2% for Jasmine Crockett. That is a 6.3 point difference. James Talarico successfully campaigned on forging a big tent coalition and using his faith to talk about the issues in a way that resonates with parts of the electorate Democrats couldn't reach before. That makes him formidable in a state like Texas. I've always been a big fan of Jasmine Crockett, but I do know that they were both great candidates and both had high chances of winning in this climate. I don't care if you supported Jasmine Crockett or James Talarico. It is now time to stop the bickering, come together, and wholeheartedly support James Talarico. The race is over. It's time to turn our attention to those thieving-ass Republicans, because we must win control of the Senate to stop Trump from being able to confirm any nominees to the courts, including the Supreme Court. That's the goal. We must remember that we are all on the same side. So every Jasmine Crockett supporter in Texas needs to show up for James Talarico, because Texas could mean the difference between a Senate Majority Leader John Thune or a Senate Majority Leader anyone but Chuck. Now let's talk about the bitches on the right. The Republican side is still confused as usual. They got to have a runoff between their current Senator John Cornyn, who is more moderate, and Ken Paxton, the MAGA loon. But first, I want to talk about the Texas gubernatorial race, because this race isn't getting nearly as much press as it should. Greg Abbott is running for his fourth term in office. That has never been done before. The only other governor who has served 3 terms was his direct predecessor, Rick Perry, who was the governor of Texas since 2000 when George W. Bush resigned to become president, all the way until 2015 when Greg Abbott entered office. And yet everyone is focused on the Senate. We need to focus on the gubernatorial race too, because this is our opportunity to stop Greg Abbott, because under his watch, kids at Camp Mystic drowned because the state didn't have a siren warning in place for the Guadalupe River that is known to flood, I might add. And because of Texas's lax building regulations, they allowed the camp to build in the flood zone. Remember the ice storm? That is another indication of Texas being too lax on regulation. If Texas must be on its own grid, why, pray tell, wasn't it weatherized? Why wasn't it ready? And as far as I know, nothing has been really done to make it more resilient. Maybe that's why Ted Cruz went on vacation when the state was about to have another one of those storms not too long ago. Abbott is also being a lackey for Donald Trump. Donald Trump told him to find 5 congressional seats for Republicans, and he did it by drawing Jasmine Crockett out of her district and pitting Democrats against each other by consolidating 2 Democratic districts into one, which forced Congressman Al Green and Congressman Christian Menifee to run for the same seat. So now they are in a runoff, and one will ultimately end up out of office. And on top of all of that, the redistricting shit caused the voting mishap in Dallas and Williamson counties. So now that Gina Hinojosa is the Democratic nominee for governor in Texas, we need to show up for her just like Talarico. Texas needs a new direction, and Gina Hinojosa represents that. So vote, please. Vote. It's literally that easy. Just vote. Now in North Carolina, former Governor Roy Cooper wins the Senate primary and will battle Michael Whatley for the seat. That could be yet another much-needed pickup for the Democrats because the incumbent senator is Republican Senator Tom Tillis. There were a lot more races on Tuesday, but it's way too many to list because we have to talk about the real story here. The absolute mess the Republicans caused in Texas. In Dallas County and Williamson County, a lot of voters showed up expecting the kind of flexible vote center system they've gotten used to, and instead ran into precinct-based election day voting, where you have to vote at your assigned location. That led to voters being redirected and in some cases turned away, depending on where they went. Here's MS Now's reporting on it as it was happening.
Dallas Morning News is reporting that this confusion about the Dallas County Republican Party saying, no, you're not allowed to vote countywide, you have to vote for your specific precinct, and that being new for this election season and people not knowing that was going to happen and that being confusing, that was compounded because the Texas Secretary of State's votetexas.gov website was not updated with Dallas County's new precinct maps after they were changed in December after the state did this new redistricting. The state redistricted in Texas at the insistence of Donald Trump. It was a late and out of time, sort of not the right time to do it, redistricting. One of the logistical consequences of that, according to the Dallas Morning News, is that the precinct maps weren't updated, again, at the Secretary of State's website. So what that means is that some voters in Dallas County who were searching for doing the right thing, doing their research, looking it up, searching for their particular polling place on the state's websites, some voters in Dallas County checking the state's website were then given the wrong information about where to vote because their precinct map changed when they redistricted. By Tuesday afternoon, the state website was directing voters to use the county election search tool instead because the state search tool was not working right because they had the wrong maps. And of course, as we know, the Dallas County election search tool then crashed as everybody in the county, again, the second most populous county in the state, tried to use that county tool in order to figure out where to go. So you can understand why a judge might have ruled that maybe things should be kept open a little later to account for this sort of mistakes, particularly because some of these mistakes appear to have been on the part of the state of Texas. But now the Texas State Supreme Court has stopped them from having extended those hours.
Lawrence, and how aware was the Republican Party in Dallas County of this mismatch? How aware were they when they said, no, you have to go to your precinct? How aware were they that no one would be able to find their precinct? Did they know that when they were forcing that choice?
Yeah.
Nah. And see, this is something that I have always been feeling about Republicans. They are always fucking shit up, making things less efficient, and just generally not thinking things through before they act. So since their simple asses didn't think that through, they caused this confusion. It's almost like they don't know how huge their state is. You see in New Orleans, when someone asks how far away something is, if it's close, we say, oh, it's around the corner. Well, suffice it to say, around the corner in Texas is a lot different than around the corner in Louisiana. In Texas, it's actually a goal to move from the principal city to the suburbs. In Texas, people often live an hour or more away from where they work. That's normal in places like Houston, Austin, and Dallas. It's not unusual for someone to work in downtown Dallas but live near the county line. That's just life in Texas. Now imagine getting off work at 5 p.m. and polls are closing at 7 p.m. If your normal commute is 45 minutes with no traffic, adding rush hour into that, that trip can easily turn into 2 hours. By the time you get home or just get close to home, you would have already missed your chance to vote. The polls were closed at 7 p.m. That's exactly why countywide vote centers existed. They allowed people to vote wherever was closest instead of forcing them to drive all the way back to their assigned precinct. And for people who work far from home, that made voting a lot easier. Well, at the last minute, Republicans decided to change that and didn't tell people. So when people showed up to vote, they were turned away. And there were so many people trying to figure out where to go that it crashed the website that wasn't updated with the right information anyway. That's why some people said they went to a countywide place and were turned away. And when they did get through to the site, they followed it and got sent to the wrong place again. That's what happens when you move fast to appease your dear leader and redistrict, and you don't give a shit about the people you were elected to represent. That's Republican governance. Then they decided to move the goalposts and change rules quietly without notice. That prompted a Dallas County judge to step in and decide to order the polls to stay open until 9 p.m. so people could vote. And then the Republicans stepped in and stopped it. So you're probably asking, well, why would the Republicans stop it? And which one did it?
And Dallas County has had problems with the administration of their election today. We've been explaining that over the course of the night. I'm going to go right now to Evan Smith, who's the host of Overheard with Evan Smith on Austin PBS. He's a veteran observer of Texas politics. He's got 30 years experience doing that. And Evan, I'd like you to explain to us again what had happened earlier today in Dallas County, why things have been chaotic there. And now this new reporting about a judge's order about the extension of voting there.
Right. So as we talked about earlier, Rachel, the Republican Party in Dallas County decided they did not want to have countywide elections. They wanted to make people go to their assigned polling place locally. And if the Republicans say you can't have countywide, then the Democrats can't have countywide. So Democratic voters showed up thinking they were going to be able to vote at the places around the county they had voted, and they were turned away. And there was a big push to try to extend voting in Dallas County as a result of that, to give those people an opportunity to vote after all. A Dallas judge ordered the polls open until 9. Well, Attorney General Ken Paxton asked the Texas Supreme Court within the last couple of hours to overturn the Dallas judge's ruling. And according to reporting from my former colleague Eleanor Klibanoff of the Texas Tribune, the Texas Supreme Court has just temporarily blocked that judge's order to keep the polls open until 9, ordering the county to separate out the votes from people who were not in line at 7 o'clock. This throws a monkey wrench into the vote count in Dallas County. Whether those votes are going to count or not, we have no idea what's going to happen. It's a temporary ruling, but goodness, this is a mess, Rachel. It was already a mess. It's more of a mess now.
This is a pause of the vote extension in Dallas County. Are people being stopped from voting right now?
What I know is that the county is being told you have to take the votes that were cast in the last 2 hours. It's coming up upon that 9 o'clock hour central here in Texas right now. You have to take the votes that were cast by people who are not in line at 7 o'clock, push them to the side, and the fate and the status of those votes is now unknown. And of course, if you're Jasmine Crockett, you're thinking this is terrible for you, because this is the county where you're going to hopefully roar back into contention in this race.
And this is as you said, it was a Dallas judge who ordered the extension of voting in Dallas County. And then it was U.S. Senate candidate and sitting Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who asked for an individual state Supreme Court judge to weigh in and essentially overturn that other judge's ruling?
Asked the Supreme Court of Texas if they would come in and temporarily block that Dallas judge's order, and the Supreme Court came back and said, yes, we temporarily block it.
So you heard it. Ken Paxton, the GOP Senate candidate and the incumbent state attorney general, got the Texas Supreme Court to block the judge's order. So you're probably wondering, why does Ken Paxton care who gets to vote for the Democratic primary past 7 o'clock? I think it was probably because he knew that if Jasmine Crockett potentially got extra votes and became the nominee, he would have a tougher race against her if he won his primary. And it was probably just to muddy the waters, to further sow doubt about voting in general. You know how Republicans typically like to do. So now we don't know what will happen to the people's ballots who got in line to vote after 7 p.m. They may not be counted. I said that may have impacted Jasmine and stopped her from winning, because how many people potentially got blocked from voting and or just gave up after all of that rigmarole? Not to mention the foolishness they were already engaging in before, when they was trying to require passports and shit for people to vote, as if you need one. So be that as it may, the election is over. There are no redos. So we need to move on and make sure James Talarico gets elected to the United States Senate this November. Don't be angry and sulk about it. We have to fight. And the weapon to use is the one Republicans keep trying to take from you: your vote. This is Pragmotiv News. I'm Kameron. See y'all next time.